Recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic will take global cooperation. That is the message Prime Minister Justin Trudeau sent today as he co-hosted a United Nations summit on ways to soften the social and economic impacts of the outbreak. Over 50 heads of state joined the meeting, with one notable exception: the United States and President Donald Trump. Can a global approach work without a key G7 leader like the United States? Can Canada rely on the world's other economic superpowers, China, when relations with Beijing are at such a low point? And remember what's happening on that horrific crackdown going on in Hong Kong. Let's get some answers. Canada's ambassador to the United Nations joins us now, Ambassador Marc-Andre Blanchand. Thank you, sir. I hope you and the family are well, and I appreciate you joining us. Sir, what can we expect to make of the fact that the United States does not show up, the world's largest economy, in today's summit? And does that send a signal to you of what?
No, I mean, thank you for having me. But I want to say that the United States of America and China have both informed us that despite the fact that they could not send their leaders today, that actually they want to collaborate and work with Canada and Jamaica and the Secretary General and the UN and the world, actually, on the process that has been proposed and launched today by Prime Minister Trudeau. You know, it's very important what has been launched today. I was just speaking to the Secretary General, who called a few minutes ago, who said to me, Marc-Andre, I don't remember at the UN when we, outside of the General Assembly, the annual meeting, that we had for a meeting more than 50 heads of states and heads of government coming. So that's a tribute to the leadership of Prime Minister Trudeau and Prime Minister Holness of Jamaica, that we're actually able to gather in a week. We did that in a week. We asked the world, we said, let's have a candid discussion. Because this is the pandemic and the economic crisis we're in is not the 2008 and 9 recession or economic financial crisis. It's a crisis, as the Prime Minister of Barbados says, it's about life and livelihood. 300 million people around the world so far have lost their job. They think that more than 50 million will be pushed towards extreme poverty in the coming weeks or months. And everybody said today, you know, the time is against us. There's an urgency. Everybody agreed on an urgency. Everybody agreed that actually we need to do things differently. The Prime Minister said to the world, we need to think out of the box. And the world said, yes, we do. But then we need to find the common ground and on some of these issues, because some of the issues will not be easy to resolve. Right. None of this is easy, as we know. But sir, it takes convenience to do it.
Look, respectfully, though, the United States has threatened to pull out of funding for the WHO. They don't show up to a critical meeting. We can't pretend that things are all fine. Donald Trump has a very adversarial relationship with the United Nations. As you know, this is, as President Macron of France said today, this seemed to me as much about the Europeans, the Canadians, the Commonwealth trying to shore up support for multilateralism as it's being ripped asunder by either China, Russia, and or the United States. What do you make of that?
And well, this is a problem that cannot be solved unilaterally, cannot be solved bilaterally. It needs to be solved by having everyone around the table in a discussion. There are some members that maybe, you know, will have their own, way of looking at things. And I think actually the United States of America will come to the table on some issues and will probably want to be less active on some other issues. The same with China. But today, what was interesting to see is that there's common ground, you know. I'll give you a few places where there's common ground. We know that small island states, we know that some island states or countries that are what we call middle-income country, that are not very rich, but they're not poor, they're in the middle, they often live off tourism. Those countries are badly hit at the moment, and they're more vulnerable than ever before. Yeah, so we need to think about measures for them. There will be no one-size-fits-all. And so this is today what was the discussion was, we know there's money there. Right. There's money in the system in the world that exists to resolve some of the issues. The problem is, how do you channel it properly? How do you? It's not only about public and governmental resources. That's why, for example, in some cases, the American government will be interested in that. They're interested in. I'll give you one example where they will want to play, because I've had those discussions with them. It's on the issue of partnership with the private sector and government. how do we work better and how do we leverage each other better than we've done in the past to ensure that actually there's growth in the world from an economic perspective as we come out of COVID-19.
Let me switch to China. They're an economic superpower. We have very frosty relationships. They basically, their media, their state media has called us a puppet of the U.S. government over the Meng Wanzhou. One, have you spoken to their ambassador to the United Nations? Will Canada take a tougher stance on China? And also, given the fact of what's happening under the COVID of darkness in Hong Kong, where the one country, two systems has now been undermined, and there's a crackdown on democratic protesters in Hong Kong that's very vicious right now. What is Canada's position? Will it stiffen against China?
Well, Canada, on this issue of the situation in Hong Kong, has expressed grave concern about the situation. We've done that today with most of our allies from the Five Eyes, what we call the Five Eyes. So this is, in this case, we did it with Australia and with the UK and with the United States of America, and we issued a joint statement. So Canada has been incredibly clear on this issue.
A joint statement, though, sir, a lot of Canadians are wondering if the Chinese care, if those words matter. A joint statement on undermining democracy in Hong Kong. We've had a lot of statements, and two Canadians, Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig, are rotting in a Chinese prison for over 500 days. Can you tell us if nothing seems to be working, what will change now for Canada's stance vis-a-vis China?
Well, in this case, actually, I think a statement means this is diplomacy in some ways, because in our terms, you had a strong statements by four countries that are important partners of China that express their grave concern about the entire situation. So this is a very strong language were used in this one. And so we will see as the situation is still evolving. We've made a point, and a very strong point, and